Our next keynote speaker is a shining example of succeeding no matter what life throws at you. At the age of 14 months, he was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy. At the age of 15, his case became the occasion to change the law on flag bearers in school parades. In 2003, he was admitted to the Department of Medicine of the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, from where he received his degree in medicine in 2010 with honors. From 2013 to 2015, in parallel with the exercise of specialty, he attended postgraduate seminars on the subject of human psychosexual disorders. In 2014, he received a master's degree in mental health promotion, prevention of psychiatric disorders. In 2016, he received a degree in psychiatry. He has been serving as a member of the European Parliament since the 2019 elections. Please give your warm welcome to Stelios Kympouropoulos for his keynote speech on the rights of people with disabilities.
Dear all, thank you for inviting me to this high interesting forum. Honorable panelists and participants, it is a great pleasure for me to be with you today in this inclusive forum for inclusivity. It is real nice to have a high level on that issue, which is usually excluded from events like this one. During the previous decades, it was believed that accessibility is the key to protect disabled people's rights. This conception has led to the creation of various structures, schemes, institutions, services, provisions, entrances, designs which are used exclusively by disabled persons. This practice has contributed to the segregation of disabled people. And as we all can conclude, segregating the group of people from the wider society generates racism and it violates fundamental human rights. Getting in a building through a special, accessible, not visible back door, working in a segregated workshop, being educated in an accessible special school for disabled children, being transported by special accessible transportation, living in a segregated accessible areas or houses, it is possible to create a comfortable living for us, but it also makes disabled people invisible. And as we all know, societies don't take into account their invisible members. Of course, I'm not stating that accessibility is wrong or that it should be ignored. Accessibility remains very important, but it should always be implemented through the perspective of inclusivity. Worldwide, the disability movement has realized that we should advocate more about inclusivity. The UN Convention on the Rights for Disabled Persons focuses on that. This realization has happened initially in the USA, and it has been spread in Europe, mostly after the millennium. It has been more than 20 years now, but I'm sadly finding out that it's still not a priority in Greece, Cyprus, and generally in the Southeastern Europe. We are still discussing about which model we need to follow, the medical, the philanthropism, or other models in our inventory. But the only acceptable model is human right-oriented or the social model of governance for disabled persons. While trying to understand the reasons for this dissociation of interest, I came to the conclusion that it is due to the lack of participation of disabled persons and the representative organizations to the political decision-making about disability, especially in the area of Europe. Inclusivity must start from the decision-making processes. This may be hard for non-disabled persons to accept, particularly for those involved in politics. But when it comes to disabled people's rights, it's the disabled person themselves, through their own organization, that must have the first word, the last word, and every word in between concerning any legislation or political decision about disability. All the other stakeholders, no matter if it is a government, an organization, and so on, should have a supportive and advisory role to the decision-making process, and not the other thing around. Disabled persons are aware of all the barriers that deprive from their fundamental human rights the ones that know what should change, and how an improvement should be implemented in their everyday life. Disabled people need a group of experts to indicate our rights. We need the experts and the governmental support to propose the eligible ways to make these improvements or to change the laws. We need to involve more the disabled persons to this kind of decision making. And it is outlined in every single paragraph of the new European Disability Strategy, as it is in the UCRPD. The member states aligned to this, to some extent, has created working groups, and their disability papers organizations need to be participate in this. But in most cases, these working groups have only an advisory role to the procedure. This role is crucial, and as we have seen in Greece, for example, with many positive changes. During the governments of Kyriakos Mitsotakis, the first national action plan for the rights of the disabled people has been created through various working groups, with the participation of the disabled people. Additionally, in the European Parliament, we are called to find a proper way for this advisory capacity to be more binding. The EU must work on these taxes for change of perspective to be successfully implemented. Firstly, for this participation to become meaningful, the appropriate directives should be given to the member states. Secondly, we need to make the wider society aware and ready to accept that it is the disabled people that should have the control and the choice of their life. Lastly, but not least, we need to empower disabled people. In non-inclusive societies, as the ones of the South and Eastern Europe, disabled people are not confident enough to demand, to control the political decision-making. On top of that, they are not experienced enough to be efficient in such procedures because of lacking interaction with the wider society. Therefore, inclusivity in every aspect of life will bring more inclusivity. It is crucial that the empowerment of a group of people starts in early stages of life. Inclusive education could be the holy grail to this effort. After all, children are the future. At this point, I would like to share with you something more personal. During these last 3 years in the European Parliament, I have understood and I feel that more disabled persons should be into politics. I believe that it will be more easy for me to accomplish my vision with the European Parliament if there are more disabled MEPs. We need to join our voices. We even need to improve the accessibility of the European Parliament, which is good, but it could be efficient, more efficient, due to this lack of disabled MEPs. The European Parliament collaboration with the Disability Intergroup, the European Disability Forum, the European Network on Independent Living, and many more. But all these organizations can just advise us. Many disabled persons that I know have stopped trying after being really tired, explain for decades to non-disabled persons that are responsible to make the final decision about their lives and about their own way of living. It is hard to have to prove that we know better about our rights and that this is our choice, how we implement them. To conclude, we agree that inclusivity is the key to a society that disabled persons will live on equal basis as everyone else, enjoying their fundamental human rights. But inclusivity is something more than a group of laws. It is more than a structure or than a percentage of mandatory participation. Inclusivity is a way of thinking, a perception that if we all adopt in every aspect of life, the society will change. Our societies will be more fair and unprejudiced for everyone, not only for the disabled persons, and this is the only way for the EU to evolve. Thank you very much for your attention, and really, I'm dreaming of this inclusivity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.